It is Monday, March 5th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a highly educational, get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Did some extra credit with Mr. Nathan over at the old gym today, and I think that's going to be kind of a regular thing, just because I came really close to getting my blue belt. Really close. I did my test on Sunday, and I think I passed my technicals, because my coach is like really... I didn't manage to finish 18 minutes worth of sparring. I kind of psyched myself out the night before, and I didn't know what kind of like test we were going to actually have. You know, I hadn't actually tested for a belt yet, so I had no idea what to expect. And so when I went in the previous night, I decided that I wasn't going to have any caffeine, because I didn't want to go through that issue where you spike on caffeine and you're zooming, and then you crash at about 2 p.m. and then you got a choice to make. You either A, ingest more caffeine, in which case you'll be wired to the fucking gills, or you kind of like take a nap or chillax for a couple hours and kind of recoup. And I knew that I would be testing at 4, so that was kind of out. And of course, the night before I couldn't sleep because I didn't know what to expect. And so, I was up until like 4 in the morning. And so I didn't eat breakfast until late. And so I hadn't done my usual... I know I'm making all kinds of excuses, but like really what it came down to is I'm on the mat and I'm like gassing to begin with. And then on top of that, I hadn't taken a crap. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have a heart attack or if I'm going to shit myself first. But I needed to get the fuck off the mat. That, and I was bleeding all over the place because I did a what do you call it, a private session the day before, or no, not the day before, Friday. I did a private session for the instructor, and the guy that I was rolling with, I don't know if it was just he was just that relaxed and I was that tense or whatever, but I kind of walked all over him. And and plus I outweighed him by, 20-30 pounds too, so I'm sure that was to some advantage. But anyway, I'd basically torn all the skin off the top of my big toe. And those of us who practice jiu-jitsu know that this is kind of a normal thing. There's certain things that go with jiu-jitsu, cauliflower ears, carrot fingers, and knobby toes and really muscular feet. These things just go with jiu-jitsu. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been training. If you've been training for like 6 months or whatever, you've had at least one of these issues, if not all of them at once. And also cervical issues in your neck and back, but that's only from getting thrown and wrangled around by your neck and that kind of shit. It's not good for you. But I've got to say, I really enjoy jiu-jitsu, and mostly for the personal growth. And I think that's what I've enjoyed the most out of every martial art that I've ever taken. And I'm talking all the way down from yoga to Shotokan and jiu-jitsu. I like the ways that the practice of it has changed my mind. How my mind operates. And I think that's some of the quality that's like least emphasized, because we're so visually drawn that when we're drawn to things like jiu-jitsu, we're visually drawn to it. It's not something, I don't think anyway, unless you actually do it, where you're experientially drawn to it. I think the visual of watching somebody getting choked out or watching him getting put in an arm bar or some shit like that, visually that looks very painful. And so like you want to be able to do that to somebody, but it's not an experiential drive. You're not saying, oh man, I want to fly through the air with, somebody hip tossing me, or, I want to be crushed by somebody and I want somebody to rip my arm off and, or try to rip my arm off. It's not one of those kind of things. It's visually we're drawn to it from the action, and like you look at it and you think, oh, I want to do that, and no. You don't want to do that. You don't really want to do that. I mean, like, if you did that for a while, your body would be like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get thrown to the ground. I don't want to get somebody grabbing on my arm or my neck or my ankle or no. That's painful. That hurts. Don't do that. But I mean, if we went by initial impression, nobody would do jiu-jitsu. But like I said, we are drawn to it visually, and it's like, when you get past the visual impression of it, and you're starting to internalize how to do the movements and where to put the pressure and where to have the grip, it changes how you think in your body position in everything else. And I think I've described jiu-jitsu here as like a mind virus, that it starts impacting all of your other activities, and that's what I'm kind of getting to with regard to the mental aspect of it. It's that through doing it and giving into the way that it changes the way you move from how you previously moved, through doing that, it changes how your mind works. It's a very interesting thing. I wish I could put a better descriptor to it. I mean, but it's actually a physiological change if you really want to get down to it, because you're remapping your mind has a map of your body, and what its capabilities are, and so you're always discovering new movements within your realm of capability. You don't even have to be more flexible to do them. You don't have to be stronger to do them, but they're just not ways that you normally move your body. They're perfectly easy to do. They're just not normal. And so when you're getting your brain to get your legs to do certain things, get your hips to do certain things, get your arms to do certain things, you're remapping your body. You're doing it by a schematic in front of you, rather than learning how to do it by what feels all right, what feels like it's not going to break your knees or your hips or anything like that. You're doing it from a schematic that somebody's already mapped out and says, here, try this one. You've never done it before. You've never used your legs stepping back to sweep somebody's foot out from under them, but you've stepped your foot back 1,000,000 times today. You just didn't think about it in the context of sweeping somebody's foot out from under them. So anyway, that's where I'm at with jiu-jitsu. I'm not quite a blue belt, but hopefully by the end of this week I will be. And Friday we're going to have to make a correction. Either I'll have to come on later, which I'm not anticipating being able to do, because I'm assuming I'm going to be probably pretty drunk in celebration for having finally gotten my blue belt. So we'll either be swapping it to like Thursday doing a show, or on Saturday doing a show. One of those two. We'll kind of mix it up just a teeny tiny, or I don't know, maybe a pre-recorded thing. I don't know, but I'm not going to be able to do an actual show here, so I don't know. Like I said, I'll figure it out. I'll work it out, and I'll give you guys an announcement probably on Wednesday, and let you know exactly what the lowdown is on that. But so for right now, let's go ahead and throw down into some music, and I'm feeling the need for a little bit of prong here, as I usually do, and hell yeah, Inner Being by Prong. First Dance here on Coin Metal. And that was System of a Down with Shimmy. Yeah, I had planned on going just a teeny tiny longer on music, but it's okay. We've got plenty to talk about. And I saw this thing here, and I'm kind of interested in this because apparently people have been pleading guilty to something that's not really a crime, which is selling Bitcoin to people. And I don't think that's a crime. I don't know that. I don't get why anybody would make you a criminal for selling Bitcoin. That's like making you a criminal for selling baseball cards or fucking liquor or some shit like that. Let's see here. Anyway, I saw this thing on our Bitcoin, or Reddit /r/Bitcoin. If you get arrested for selling Bitcoins, please send me an email, fightabolish.bitlicense.org. I just learned another Bitcoiner pled guilty and did not know about it. If you get arrested, please send me an email so I can document it and alert the right people. Theo. And I'm assuming that's Theo Chino. Theo Chino on Reddit. Anyway, abolish the bit license. And I think this is actually something that should be done. If you have the gumption to find it, I think I either have it on my SoundCloud account or my Mixcloud account, one of the two. I did a live read of BitLicense, and as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find that. Because if I can find it, you can find it. That's one of those things. But anyway, I did a live read of it, and I'll tell you what, the people that wrote it, they were thinking one thing, and that's keep Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs and all these people ahead of cryptocurrency within the District of New York. That's basically it. You know, that's all they were trying to do with BitLicense, because it basically made Ben Lawsky like king of crypto let's see here. I want to check and verify, because sometimes CC addresses me with stuff about technicals here. Ben Lawsky, yeah, he should be punched in the fucking balls. Yes, absolutely correct, Mr. CC in the Telegram. Yes. So basically, it made Ben Lawsky like king of crypto in New York, and I can't like convey the depth of fucking stupidity that it took to get that thing passed. But I'll tell you what, they did it, and it's had nothing but bad effects for crypto in New York. You know, because basically they kicked everybody out. And there's a, let's see here, if I can find it, Frank Dashwood. I tried finding it with my DJ eRock 23. I'll try Frank Dashwood just to make that a little bit easier. Dashwood. I'm doing it with one hand, and in the dark. Can you do that? Frank Dashwood on Twitter. There's a reason blah, blah, blah. BitLicense is designed to kill Bitcoin innovation. Yes. And that was somebody else wrote that. Frank Dashwood, 99, Bitcoin Rush 99, Swampy, blah, 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 blah. First BitLicense. Okay. I'm trying to find the Mixcloud thing that I posted where let's see here. That one's missing, BitLicense. Anyway, I'll find it somewhere and like repost it or something like that. But anyway, I did a live read of it, and the biggest thing I saw in it was like they wanted you to pay for their lawyers. They wanted you to pay for them to go to any of your other sites. So like if you had sites outside of New York, if you had a New York customer and they wanted to audit your books for whatever reason, they could just like, you know, snap their fingers, and they didn't even have to tell you why. and they could come and raid your shit and say, oh yeah, by the way, we need you to pay for the travel expenses and the accommodations for the 10 people that we're bringing with us. And also you got to pay them $75 an hour, and they're going to examine your books for whatever determined period of time. And you're going to have to pay for all this shit. Now, you tell me, what cryptocurrency in this space that started in like between the periods of say 2012 and 2014, knowing what you may know or may not know about this space depending on when you started getting involved, but assuming you were involved back then, knowing what you know about cryptocurrencies and the state thereof back then, could you imagine any one of those coins starting if they had that kind of regulatory friction to endure? No. I don't give a fuck if you've got Roger Ver as your sponsor. Coinbase would not be in New York right now. I mean, I think maybe Gemini might be there. That's about it. But that's because that's the Winklevoss twins, and they got billions and billions of dollars, and they can afford to do things like hire a cadre of lawyers and ferret out all the fucking regulatory CYA bullshit that they would have to be in compliance with just to operate within New York, on top of the bit license. And they did that. You know, that's to their credit. You know, you can talk all the shit you want about the Winklevoss twins. They are running basically like the only the only compliant exchange according to old world rules. And see, that it's by design that's the way that's going on. Okay? They are the only ones that actually had the money needed to play by the old school rules. That's by design. It's to keep you the fuck out. It doesn't have anything to do with the quality of your product. It doesn't have anything to do with how good your ideas are, or how innovative they are, or how they could change humanity. No. What matters is, do you have people that are willing to throw billions and billions of dollars at your shit? Do you have the billions and billions of dollars to keep your shit as you want to? If you don't, then you can just go fuck off, because there's no room for you within the state of New York. And that's what BitLicense did to crypto in New York. Unless you've got the billions and billions of dollars, forget about it. Forget about it. Or millions and millions of dollars. Maybe not billions, but more than you've got. More than I've got. More than most people, even in crypto, got. So, when you extrapolate that out to like what's going on now with ICOs and whatnot, ICOs can never happen in New York. Fuck that. None of them. None. There isn't a single fucking ICO. I don't give a fuck if we're talking about Tezos with the hundreds of millions of dollars behind them. They could not get a bit license in New York. I can guarantee it. And so that just cancels the quadrillions of dollars that are held in New York by residents of New York out of the market there. Now, of course, if they are willing to go through the massive hoops and ladders that you would have to go through in order to, say, I don't know, spoof an account in Singapore and get around all that bullshit, then now you're a criminal. You know, now they can put you in jail for fucking tax evasion and all this other bullshit that they're trying to put on your back. But at least the responsibility is where it belongs, with you. But I'm so offended by the idea of being able to put real world regulation like we see with fiat currencies on cryptocurrencies. I mean, there's no state authority that's watching over your shoulder in the creation of it. There's no gun to anybody's head forcing them to use it. So, you know, again, it's like collecting baseball cards or fine wine. Anyway, let's read this thing. Abolish the bit license. Bit license can still be stopped if we use this opportunity. The poorly conceived bit license regulation has all but destroyed Bitcoin innovation in New York since it was introduced in June of 2015. We can either sit back and wait as regulators around the US and the world start modeling their Bitcoin regulations on the New York example, or we can act. Fortunately, we still have an opportunity to stop the bit license regulation and re-energize Bitcoin innovation if we act now. If we don't act now, the choice will be made for us. Call your representative. Bit license can still be stopped if we use this opportunity. Who to call? And then you call your representative. That's very good advice. Get rid of it. But I will tell you this. They are never going to try it. They're never going to do it on a national level. And I'll tell you why. Because already too many of our legislators are involved in cryptocurrencies. Too many of them are already profiting off of cryptocurrencies. What does this mean for you? This means that if they try and put the laws on you, the difference with cryptocurrencies is that they are all accountable. You know, I think that we're too accepting of this idea that crimes happen in plain view of CCTV cameras, but the CCTV camera footage can only be used against us in the court of law. It can never be used to exonerate us. It can never be used to prove that we weren't there or any of that other bullshit. No, it can only be used against us. And the same thing with the NSA and the FBI tracking all of our internet activity. You know, the idea that can only be used against you is, I think that's kind of silly. You know, I mean, maybe defense lawyers have to bone up on it, or maybe they are ahead of it, and I just don't know because I've never been in court. But I will say this, that when it comes to cryptocurrencies, because everything that we do, most of the things we do anyway, some of us are trying to change this about cryptocurrencies, because everything we're doing is on chain, it's public. It's public record. I mean, if anybody ever wanted to come after me for taxes or whatever, I can prove how every fucking cent that I've made, down to the Satoshi, I can prove where it came from. I can prove that it didn't come from any fraudulent activity. It didn't come from any fucking bullshit. It didn't come from any drug sales or prostitution or terrorist financing or any of that other bullshit. I can prove it without a shadow of a fucking doubt. So the idea that these can only be used against us and not to favor us, you gotta fucking get over that bullshit. Because your transactions are just as trackable as Donald Trump's fucking transactions. As Angela Merkel's transactions. As Janet Yellen's transactions. They're all fucking trackable. You need to understand that is for everybody. That's not just for you. You're not the only one that can look at your transaction record and see everything that fucking happened. No, if we have to draw that into question, it's there. So like BitConnect, I don't even know why people bother with that shit. I really don't, because all of the fucking paper trail is all digital. And you might have erased it on your computer, but that doesn't mean there isn't a fucking copy somewhere else. And if you did it on the blockchain, there is a fucking copy everywhere else. So, again, people, this is the difference. This is why we want to keep it on chain. You want to talk about getting rid of cruft? You want to talk about getting rid of misappropriation of funds? How the fuck are you going to misappropriate it when it's there on the blockchain? I think this is lost on some people, and most certainly it's either lost or understood too well by those people that want to take things off chain, because then the only record that it's happened until it is on the blockchain is in the holders of those nodes and the hubs and all that other business between you and the blockchain. And this is a reality that I think too many of us are just not thinking about with that whole off-chain bullshit. And when I'm saying off-chain stuff, I'm talking about Lightning Network and layer 2 scaling. I don't know if you guys have been keeping an eye on this or not, but the transaction volume for Bitcoin has gone down significantly. Now, we can make guesses as to why, but I can guarantee you I know why. People found out that they could do exactly what they can do with Bitcoin with Ethereum. And they can do it also with Zcash. And they can do it with Dash. And they can do it with Litecoin. And they can do it with Verge. And they can do it with Monero. We've taken this genie out of the bottle, kids. It's not going to stop with Bitcoin. And you can't use the fucking first mover advantage of Bitcoin to get you everywhere, because that is long gone. That was gone back in like 2011, 2012, when somebody got the bright idea to say, hey, let's extend GPU mining a little bit further by making Litecoin. And I'm assuming that's Charlie Lee. And then somebody else said, hey, if you can do Litecoin, then I can do Namecoin. And somebody else said, if you can do Namecoin, I can do Mugatu Coin. And that's what we fucking did. That was 2013. That was 2014. Kind of tapered off and ended in the beginning of 2015. We started talking about this whole layer 2 bullshit, and started looking at Bitcoin going, are these guys ever going to increase the block size? And that was the other thing that was really driving a lot of the altcoins in the end, is they're like, look, these guys seem kind of stultified in their whole development process, and it looks like it's getting kind of centralized, and I think I can do it better. I think with maybe a shorter confirmation time and maybe some additional features that they're not necessarily doing with Bitcoin, like proof of stake and some anonymizing features and so on and so forth. And so here we are with it. And it's still continuing on. I see that there are still being coins created to increase participation. And that, to me, that just gives me a nice warm and fuzzy feeling in the heart, because to me, this is meant for everybody. This isn't meant for some little cadre of people up on high to fucking wave the wand and point at the crown and say, you listen to me because I wear this. No. No. We're all end users unless we're developing or unless we're mining. We're all end users now. This is meant for all of us, because we don't just have to be end users. We can also be participants. Anywho, I've got a few articles here, and this is the one that really got me looking into this idea of people going into prison over selling Bitcoin. And this one kind of disturbs me because of the title, but we'll continue on. And this one's on Bitcoin.com. And written approximately 12 hours ago. Let's go ahead and refresh that, see if it's not 19 hours ago. There we go. And this is by Avi Mizrahi. There is no picture, so, and I'm not familiar with the first name or last name, whether it's typical male or female, so question mark on the penis. 24-year-old sent to prison for selling Bitcoin without asking ID. For ID, rather. U.S. law agencies can celebrate another success in their tireless crusade to stop, quote, unlicensed money transmitting in the land of the free. The latest victory, quote unquote, I say, is sending a 24-year-old crime kingpin to federal prison for making $40,000 from trading Bitcoin offline. Also read, U.S. federal authorities arrest man for selling 9.99 Bitcoin, and yes, we will. 1 year in jail for $40,000 from 2.6% commission. That's fucked up. Eldon Stone Ross, a 24-year-old from Kenneth Square Borough of Chester County, Pennsylvania, has been sentenced on Wednesday to serve a year and a day in federal prison for buying and selling large amounts of Bitcoin to people without reporting the transactions to the U.S. government. The young man supposedly sold $1.5 million in Bitcoin for almost 2 years, but made only $40,000, a mere 2.6%, in commissions, which he now has to hand over to the government in addition to his year-long sentence. He has been convicted for conducting an unlicensed money transmitting business between January 2015 and November 2016 and failing to report the fiat to Bitcoin transactions. Quote, "We don't see many of these cases. It's the first I've done here," said Burt Glenn, the assistant U.S. attorney who prosecuted the matter in Philadelphia. If people can go to someone like Ross, who is dealing outside the institutional market, it adds to their anonymity, he warned. Yeah, that's the fucking point, asshole. Homeland Security. Ross admitted in October 2017 to selling $50,000 worth of Bitcoin to undercover federal agents related to Homeland Security investigations. In each case, they reported, quote, "He failed to obtain identifying information from the agents, according to court records. Like in previous such cases across the U.S., the authorities claimed that by not conducting exchange like Know Your Customer procedures and reporting to the Department of the Treasury, the Bitcoin seller was enabling money laundering." That's such fucking bullshit. Interestingly, the 24-year-old was already in prison for drug offenses, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, during some of the time in which he is supposed to have been operating the illegally money transmitting business. Oh, well, no wonder they were able to track him. After his new prison term is over, Ross will be under another 3 more years of supervised release. Are U.S. federal agents hunting down Bitcoin sellers the best way to protect Homeland Security? No. Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and let's check it out really quick. Let's see. Another political prisoner of the USA. Forget about peacefulness, goodwill, and civility. It is obedience that concerns our masters most. I couldn't agree more. That was Viking Vista, approximately 4 minutes ago. This is a good one. This is by Josh Goldberger. This is the banking cabal's way of trying to control a decentralized payment system. Didn't think it would be long before they started to make up ludicrous charges out of thin air and try and combat people spending their money on whatever they want. Talk about Orwellian society being here. Money transmitter? Like, what the fuck is that? And why is that in any way illegal? Sod them and their crap bankrupt fiat scam. I couldn't agree more, Josh. That's spot on. Oh, here we go. Jesse Ray 7. This is absurd. Local Bitcoin let everyone buy and sell without a KYC procedure during that time period. How can they convict someone based on community norms? I'll tell you why, Jesse, and this is it, really. He was in prison! Anyway, Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. They ask now, and that's, I guess, ZYO, or ZO. They ask now, and Jesse Ray, yeah, but apparently they said this was between 2015 and 2016. That was well before the Know Your Customer shit on local Bitcoin. Absolutely correct, Jesse. It was. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, here we go. Global Services Ltda says government, then in second place is prisons/law enforcement, are the largest two industries in the U.S. In came, quote, prison for profit during the Clinton administration, and then came civil asset forfeitures under Bubba W. administration. Thanks to prison for profit, there are more prisoners in America than China or India that have populations much higher. During the Clinton admin, torts became state jail felonies, so as to assure the newly constructed, privately owned and operated jails were filled to the brim. It worked, and is still working. The sheeple voted these rogue politicians to power now simply do not understand how the U.S. has become a police state. The idea of this case is to destroy peer-to-peer anything. Says Burt Glenn, quote, he has been convicted for conducting an unlicensed money transmitting business between January 2015 and November 2016 and failing to report the fiat to Bitcoin transactions. Should this be allowed to stand as law, he who sells 5 cows or a dog to an unknown, especially a federal agent, is in danger of arrest. This must not set a new precedent, or we are all in danger. I couldn't agree more, sir. I couldn't agree more. And here we go. I like this one. MC Cookie. What horse shit? Money transmitters are fucking banks. They transmit money for other people to other people. That is transmitting money. What this person did is exchanging their own asset/property for fiat, which is not money transmitting. And that's absolutely correct. Fuck the state. They are by far the worst criminals of all. And what's worse, they are not even really in charge. In charge are those fucking richest capitalists. No, I don't buy that. Capitalists that bought all of politics and with it the state, which is why the state is fucking people over all the time. I will agree on that point, but the whole idea of capitalism is I buy it for $1, I sell it for $2. That's capitalism. I've made a profit. You know, that's not, in my perspective, the issue. The issue is that you have not been able to participate in capitalism. Okay, when other people have a monopoly and those people own the banks and those people own the cops and those people own the state, okay, that's not capitalism. Okay, that's fascism. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are the closest we've come to legitimate capitalism in the 21st century. Because the accounting of it is all above the board for the most part. And when I say above the board, I mean the transactions themselves. I give a fuck who it goes to. I give a fuck what they're actually buying. I do not care. Do not care. Now, of course, if they're buying people and whatnot, that's a different story. And that's actually a criminal activity, and there are actually laws against that. It doesn't have anything to do with cryptocurrency in and of itself. And the money transmitter part, okay, let me tell you something. This is what I've been kicking all those fucking LN people in the balls about, because they do not seem to understand that the terms money transmitter and custodian have been altered. And I mean, I've gone on and on and on about this shit on this show, and it's like it's going in one ear and out the other for a lot of people. But here it is. This is the rubber meeting the road. This is them trying to apply these specious fucking terms and their vague fucking definitions as a reason or a justification to put people behind bars. I predicted this shit. It's predictable that it would happen. And that to me is why it is so important to have currencies like Verge. Because if this guy had never had to disclose his identity to anybody that he was transacting with, aside from maybe information they were able to pick up off of his device locally, via Bluetooth or whatever, aside from that, there would be no way for them to tell that it was him transacting the currency. And I don't give a fuck if he was in prison when he was doing it. And so yeah, you want a use case for Verge, here you go. If this guy had done all of his transactions in Verge, he'd probably be a free man after his prison sentence was up for his drug conviction. But, we are going to face this increasingly. They're not just talking about regulating us for entertainment. They're going to try and regulate us. But I'm saying that in the longer term, they're not going to regulate us because they have too much to gain by us being free. Because they can be free too. They don't have to worry about, is it against the law or whatever? Am I going to end up going to prison because all my transactions are traceable the same way everybody else's transactions are traceable? Because I can guarantee you at some point, the people are not going to tolerate this shit. That at some point or another, it's going to come down to they're breaking down doors to break up mining ops or some shit like that. And you're going to be eating a lot of fucking lead. You can't make enough fucking robots to keep that shit going. Because you have to get taxes for the robots. If you don't have taxes, you can't pay for the robots. And I've already said this a million times, and it will play out this way. You can bet your fucking bottom Satoshi on it. That cryptocurrencies are nothing short of the mutually assured destruction policy or quagmire rather of the 21st century. The harder you put your foot down on one place, the more the money will go somewhere else. The more the participation will go somewhere else. The harder you push on it, you're not going to stop it. You're just going to push it to somewhere else. And that's it. That's all you're going to do is, if you can track it a certain way and you get to practicing it, tracking it a certain way, you're going to bust everybody that you can track doing that way. But in the meantime, everybody else is going to be watching who's getting busted. And they're going to be figuring out how you're busting them. And they're going to say, oh, okay, so if we don't do that, then they won't be able to track us and we won't get busted. And that's going on globally. That is what we're talking about when we say global whack-a-mole. Because that is what's going on globally. We are paying attention. We are learning. We are adapting. And we are doing it globally. Not just here, everywhere, all the time. You can almost consider it a global brute force attack on both ends. You push on one end, you've pushed the pressure's pushed it to the other end. And now you can't track it, now you can't grab a hold of it anymore. And you'll be swatting in the air until you actually hit something. And then you'll track those, and we'll figure that one out, and we'll move to another way. And I think cryptocurrencies, because they're so reactive and they are global, you're only going to be tagging people that you're already looking for. Ever. And in the meantime, while you're looking for them, they're doing something else. and so maybe tops 20% of us. That's another 80% of us that will be transacting beyond your ability to do jack shit about. And in the meantime, the markets that that they're supporting are growing in size and participation as well. So again, let the foot off now, because you're going to find that you're basically inserting it into a bear trap. I think that's the lesson to be learned from this, is that eventually you're gonna push down hard enough for that thing to clamp shut, and by then you're in way too far to do anything about getting out. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music, and here it is, Watch Yourself by Ministry, here on Coin Metal. And that was Freedom or Fire by Fear Factory. And just to kind of tie in the kind of concept that we've been driving at tonight, this relativity of all being kind of thing. Here it is. I got a tweet by Mr. Chuck Yeager. And I just want to sidebar this. I had this issue back in, I want to say it's either the 5th or the 6th grade, or maybe even the 7th grade, where they were doing all the testing for us and stuff and finding out, what our aptitudes were. And I had this instructor, and she's looking over my test scores and stuff, and I wouldn't read the material that they were giving us. And so she's like trying to figure it out, trying to figure out why. And she's like, well, what's the deal? Okay, your reading comprehension is off the scale. What's the deal? Why won't you do the work? And I'm like, well, honestly, I got to tell you, the books that you want me to read, I'm not terribly interested in. And she's like, well, what are you interested in? And see, this is where things kind of took a trend for the better with regard to my reading and all that, is that my dad, in his wisdom, knew my attraction to science fiction, and so he subscribed to Omni magazine. And it was partially for him to be able to show me some of the stuff that he was working on, because he was working on NASA projects and whatnot. And so the neat thing about Omni magazine was, in the back section there was these short stories that they would publish, and I mean it attracted me to reading, right? And before you knew it, I was picking up books that my dad was reading. And one of the things that he had purchased, or my mom had purchased for him to read or something, I don't know, I got a hold of it, and it was Chuck Yeager's, it was either his autobiography or his biography. So I got a hold of that, and then I got a hold of The Secrets of Harry Bright, and that was a completely different story. So she asked me, she's like, so what do you want to write your report on? And I'm like, well, I'm reading the autobiography of Chuck Yeager. And she's like, oh, that'd be perfect. So that's where I kind of got my interest in Chuck Yeager, because I've always been interested in flight, and he was a test pilot, and also a World War II pilot. That's where he became a test pilot, was after his World War II experience as a pilot, a fighter pilot, by the way. He, and his demonstrated prowess there, he became a test pilot, and he was the first guy to break the speed of sound, or the sound barrier rather. So here it is. This is a little tweet by Mr. Chuck Yeager. On March 4th, 1944, I learned years later about the German who shot me down and was in turn shot down by my flight leader. His chute didn't open. I've seen the site where his plane came down, and he came down nearby, meaning nearby Chuck. When he got shot down, where he came down was very close to the guy that shot him down was himself shot down, and his chute didn't open. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about with the relativity of being, that both Chuck and this gentleman were both shot down in a relatively short period of time by comparison to one another due to their proximity. You can only tell that. But here for one of his hashtags was warbirds. And he also hashtagged the plane that the FW-190 was apparently the plane that was shot down, or shot him down and then was shot down. And then, of course, his was the P-51. But yeah, the relativity of being were all common in the soup here. And with regard to cryptocurrencies, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that we're all on par now with what used to be the duties of gods or attributed to gods. And we're in turn, they're given down to their emissaries to us, which in turn were given down to us by their their bankers, and so in turn now down to us. And here it is, and this was on CNBC. Founder of defunct Bitcoin exchange has a trail of lawsuits, judgments, and at least one unpaid lawyer. Even before being hit with a federal... I'm not going to do that. This is by Kate Rooney and Dan Mangan. So, yes and no on the penis. Published 8 hours ago. Updated 4 hours ago. Here we go. Even before being hit with a federal securities fraud lawsuit by the SEC and independent perjury charges by the Justice Department last month, the founder of a now-defunct cryptocurrency exchange had left a trail of lawsuits, legal judgments, and a lawyer who says she never got paid by him. John Montrell, 37, was accused on February 21st in a civil complaint by the Securities and Exchange Commission of running his cryptocurrency site, Bitfunder, as a, quote, unregistered securities exchange, and of defrauding users. Montrell, who was arrested on separate charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, lodged by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York on February 21st. The prosecutor said Montrell gave false testimony and false documentation during the SEC investigation into Bitfunder. The SEC complaint said the Saginaw, Texas resident failed to disclose a cyber attack on his exchange's system and a Bitcoin theft that followed that hack. In 2013, hackers were able to withdraw from about 6,000 Bitcoins from Bitfunder, the SEC said, worth about $775,000 at the time. As of Monday, those Bitcoins were worth roughly $68.7 million. After the theft, Montrell transferred some of his own Bitcoin holdings to conceal the losses, according to the DOJ's complaint. What the fuck are you bitching about? He took money from his own wallet and made his customers whole with it. The cases are pending, and Montrell is scheduled to appear in Manhattan Federal Court on Wednesday in the DOJ case. A review of Montrell's background revealed that this is just his latest legal tussle. Montrell was arrested in 1998 for allegedly stealing electronics from computer hardware store Fry's in Arlington, Texas. Yeah, he was probably about 18 back then. Fuck you. In Arlington, Texas, police told CNBC police could not say how the 1998 case was resolved because records were no longer available. His legal trouble continued from there. And you know, this is kind of like prosecuting him in the media. At the time of his arrest, the county clerk's office in Wilbarger County, Texas, had a judgment in the amount of $251,546.32 for unpaid taxes on property occupied by Vista Living, a business in Vernon, Texas, that Montrell's family owns. The county tax collector's office confirmed to CNBC the judgment, which named Montrell and properties in Vernon. A Vista Living employee told CNBC that Montrell's family, who are originally from Vernon, had owned Vista Living for years. In addition to the for-profit nursing home, Montrell owns an internet server hosting and co-location business called Colo Guys, Inc. In 2010, Omni America Bank obtained a judgment against Montrell and Colo Guys for $36,979.72, with another $1,500 awarded to the bank in attorney's fees. Online records show the matter involved a debt from a contract. A lawyer who represented Omni America Bank in the case told CNBC he did not recall details. Michael Lehman, a federal public defender who is representing Montrell in the SEC case, did not respond to CNBC's request for comment on the current charges or past legal issues. Separately, Montrell and Colo Guys were previously sued in a copyright case alleging that a homemade sex tape was posted on a website hosted by a Colo Guys server without the copyright holder's consent. Whatever. According to the lawsuit, the tape featured a model named Carolyn Murphy who once appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated's swimsuit edition. The copyright to the tape was acquired in 2006 by the Arizona company ICG, which operates several adult-oriented websites, including Hollywood sex tapes, according to the filing. But in 2006, before the Murphy video was published or released for public sale, ICG alleged that it had discovered that another website, beerandshots.com, had published a 3-minute excerpt and allowed it to be downloaded for free via its website, according to a court document. Dude, you know what? I hate saying this now, but like one of the things that one of my first exposures to the internet was somebody in a chat room typing "Where's the wares?" And if you were online back then, you know exactly what that meant. But I didn't at the time, and then I got shortly educated by another user, and then I discovered Hotline, and then everything became free, or relatively speaking free. And what some people seem to have forgotten about the internet and the initial homebrew movement. And, if you have the opportunity or the time, you really ought to look into it. And you catch glimpses of it in a few of the movies that have been done about Apple Computer and Steve Jobs. But that's really where those guys started, or I think kind of met up or whatever, is that they were all in the homebrew movement, but they were kind of like the new people. And it's really funny. There's a movie that not many people know is actually associated to this entire story, but you know the movie, and it's all allegorical in the way it's told. But if you know anything about the background with the homebrew movement, like, you should orient yourself with that, and then go back and watch the movie Tron. Okay, Tron, the latest one, the latest movie, that was kind of about Linux. I mean, if you really think about it, but it's an expansion on the storyline that was being told behind the scenes with regard to the homebrew movement, that some people wanted to keep it open and free for everybody to contribute to. None of this copyright software bullshit. Everybody just traded software. It's like, oh, hey, check out this program I made, And people, it was called the sneaker net for a while, where you would have a copy of something burned onto a CD or a floppy or something else, and you take it somewhere else and you show people it. Oh, hey, man, check this out. Sneaker net, your feet. That one's still active and live, by the way. But so this was my first introduction to the internet. Was a lot of free, otherwise copyrighted material or whatever. And again, it's this cruft. It was this leftover from this initial movement of people that were saying, hey, everything that's digital and shit, this should all be free, man. We should just be sharing this shit. And you know what? I really believe that is the best policy with regard to cryptocurrencies, the internet, pretty much everything, is that the way that these things enrich our lives and enhance our capabilities as people, as individuals, is so far beyond imagination that trying to put up little boxes and shit to put things in that based on the reality that we're familiar with is going to do nothing but kneecap this industry. I mean, literally, on the sound of my voice, if I could read off, if I had a public address in front of me, I would read it off. Anybody could type it in to a wallet and send money to it. No fucking, no agreement between us, no contract between us, no obligation between us. Just an act of volition. You know, you value it that much that you say, hey, you know what? I want this guy to keep doing what he's doing. And bam, there it is. And that's going on everywhere, all the time now. And so again, to think that the constraints that we're oriented with ideas of, you know, money transmitting and custodialship and all, you just got to forget about all that bullshit. Don't worry about it. We've got laws to block the activities or to fucking punish the activities that we already consider to be quote-unquote criminal. Abusing people, hurting other people, harming their property, stealing their property, defrauding of them of their property. We already have laws to deal with these activities. The question is now, what will we do with these tools that we have? Are we going to use them fairly and justly? Are we going to, if there is a crime committed, use the blockchain to prosecute the individuals that were actually responsible for the crime? Or are we going to go AR-15 with it, where, oh my god, a crime was committed with Bitcoin, we got to make it all illegal. We got to prosecute money transmitters, illegal money transmitters. Got to get them all to do KYC and CYA and fuck you. Again, these are artificial barriers to entry. They're completely fucking meaningless in this space. Did you commit to do something, and did you fucking do it? Check the blockchain. Yes, I fucking did it. The deal is done. Next. There's no extended obligation here. Unless you and I agree to it beforehand, that's it. The transaction is done. There's no IOU. There's no loan. There's no financing. The fucking thing is done. I mean, we're so used to just tolerating these big question marks in our finance, 3 to 5 fucking business days for our transactions to clear, that the idea that it might take you a little bit more than 10 minutes to get a confirmation is, you know, it's like, who gives a fuck? Oh my god, it took me over an hour to get my first confirmation. It should have happened in 10 minutes because the block should have been big enough to fit all the transactions in there, but that's beside the point. Point being that, so what? It was an hour. It was shorter than 3 to 5 fucking business days. And in the fucking Lightning Network paperwork, they openly talk about 1,000 blocks for these fucking payment channels to be open. And I know that's just a question mark, really, that they just put a fucking number in. Because they could stay open indefinitely or until all the funds are accounted for, whatever. Whatever conditions are applied to it to make the closing transaction go off. Point being, it's longer than 10 fucking minutes to get your first confirmation. That's by default slower than Bitcoin. Capiche? I don't give a fuck that it was verified on somebody's payment channel. That doesn't mean shit to me. It wasn't verified on the Bitcoin blockchain. And that is the standard that we have. That is the standard we are capable of. A global ledger, accountable down to 10-minute intervals. And you can look at the transactions bubbling around in the fucking mempool if you really, really wanted to. But the point being is, it's there. It's accountable. There's a count that it happened. It's not a mystery. And I know people are jumping up and down saying, oh, but I can see it in the Lightning Network. Yeah, but it's not on the fucking blockchain. It's only happening in your fucking payment channel until it happens on the blockchain. So, I mean, it's a mystery to me why anybody would decide that deviating from that model is a better thing to do. I mean, like, we came from the custodial models, okay, and all the abuse that we were subjected to with our money being in somebody else's hands. We came from that to this. And you want to go right back to that. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Especially when we have standards that are far more accountable than that. I mean, you could be doing your transactions on Verge. You're waiting maybe a minute. And that's like if the blocks were full, and they're not. So you're probably going to wait 30 seconds. And that's for global consensus on the blockchain. Done. Do you need it to be faster than that? I guarantee it's going to be cheaper than if you do it fucking Bitcoin via Bitcoin. So again, what's the motivation to stay with Bitcoin and then on top of that have to use it like a refillable fucking Visa card when I can have 30 seconds to my first confirmation on the Verge network? What's the motivation? I mean, am I that big a masochist? Do I like beating myself with wet ropes or something like that just to get myself off? You know, what is it? What penance am I serving by waiting that 10 minutes on the Bitcoin network? Who do I owe anything to that I need to do that? Nobody. Put my fucking transactions in question by taking them off chain. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, I understand the third party thing with I'm doing my transactions on an exchange. Okay, that is the third party for it. But once I get the money back in my hands, it's my fucking money. And I have it. I have the ownership rights over it. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. I want to send it to somebody in South Korea, I can do that. I want to buy something in Bangladesh, I can do that. It's, of course, getting it here might be a little bit more of a challenge, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, so this whole thing with, I'm sorry about the whole soliloquy. What got me on it is, basically I'm discerning from this Carolyn Murphy. She did a home video. It got disseminated to the internet. Somebody, this company ICG, decided that they own it, or they bought the rights from Carolyn Murphy to redistribute it, and suddenly it's a copyrighted work, and everybody who's got a copy of it has got a bootleg copy, and if they further disseminate it, they can be nailed for copyright infringement. Give me a fucking break. I'm sorry, Carolyn. You shouldn't have recorded the fucking video. Duh. I mean, I don't have any videos out there that I know about anyway. I mean, if there's somebody else that filmed me, then it wasn't my camera. But, yeah, I'm not going to sue anybody over it. I mean, shit, if they're watching me, whatever. Anyway, so get back into this article just to finish it out. The public execution of Mr. Montrol here. Montrol's lawyer in the case, Jill Ormond, ended up asking the judge for permission to withdraw as his attorney, citing a series of problems she encountered with her client. Mr. Montrol signed a fee agreement promising to pay a retainer and his bills. Ormond's motion to withdraw said, "The undersigned counsel has personally reached Mr. Montrol twice by phone. On the first call, I told Mr. Montrol of the upcoming discovery deadlines and his past due balances." Reached by phone, Ormond said Montrol just disappeared. Her motion was granted and she withdrew from the case. She added that she doesn't recall him paying, but that the case was so long ago it was probably written off by now. He does not currently owe her money. Good. It's clear from what they filed that they withdrew and that he didn't pay them, said David Gingras, copyright and attorney law, based in Phoenix. And you know what, dude? He shouldn't have had to pay shit. One of his servers one of his servers that was rented by somebody else hosted a video that somebody decided was copyrighted material after the fact. I'm sorry, if you've got to reach that far to indict this man's character, fuck you. Fuck you. I mean, really now, I can guarantee you the prosecuting attorney has probably committed far worse, has probably knowingly downloaded images and or videos that were then later deemed copyrighted material, and then he redistributed them. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, he did it. Can almost guarantee you. Somebody in that fucking court did something worse than this shit. And so, again, trying to indict his character on that, you're fucking reaching, man. You're reaching. I don't even think they would let that kind of standard fly in a totalitarian dictatorship, because they're looking around at one another going, fuck, I did that this afternoon. You know, I'm not gonna make a criminal of this guy, because, you know, that could come back and haunt me later on. And I think that's going to be a big trouble for a lot of people coming up in this this next year, that we're going to find out that you did something fucking dastardly. You bought something you shouldn't have bought. You bought something that was illegal, or did something that was unethical for your position. And you know what? You're even setting yourselves up for it. I saw this thing the other day, and I think I read it on the show, where I think it's the CFTC, they're allowing their employees to trade cryptocurrencies, but not futures. Just you guys can do whatever you want, just don't do futures, right? What do you think's going to happen? I guarantee you at least one of them is playing futures. And that's traceable, just as traceable as your transactions. So really now, who's Mr. Funny Man now? Who's Mr. Funny Man now? When you're going to be pointing a finger at somebody, and if they're savvy enough, or if their lawyer's savvy enough, they're going to be pointing back at you saying, hey, you remember the 10,000 Litecoin that you sold back in 2014 to somebody on the darknet? Yeah, we've got the record for that right here. You could just go fuck yourself, because you're clearly guilty of worse crimes than you're accusing my client of. And that judge is probably going to be thinking, oh, fuck, you know, I hope they're not tracking my transactions too. I think people underestimate how how endemic the interest of cryptocurrencies has been and how deep it really reaches. It's worse than jiu-jitsu as far as mind viruses go because it's money. It's money you can participate in. And we've already seen the full Monty of effects play out in Venezuela. They've skipped a few steps. Okay, they've gone into the state fraudulently claiming that they're going to create a petro-backed cryptocurrency, but that's beside the point. I mean, that's further down the line for us. But they've gotten to the point where they're busting miners, okay? And what's happening is the cops are taking, because it's not actually illegal, they don't actually have any laws against it, but they nail the miners for things like excessive electricity use or something. You know, it's like some social faux pas. And so they confiscate all the mining gear, and then they set it up at home. And then they're mining. Do you see how this is going? It's like worse than crack. Okay, where the cop busts a crack dealer, and then he asks the crack dealer, how much you making a week? And the crack dealer's like, oh, about $20,000. And the cop's like, ah! You know, I make that in 5 months of my life getting shot at and shit. This guy makes that in a week. Why the fuck am I going to do that? You know, hey, guy, cut me in a little bit. Next thing you know, the cop's dealing crack or looking out for the crack dealer and he's getting some kickbacks. That's people. But now this shit's documentable. Okay, if you can nail this monkey on money transmitting, what's in store for you, judge? What's in store for you, prosecutor? What's in store for you, congressman? What's in store for you, senator, governor, mayor? What's in store? It's all on the blockchain, so there's no hiding from it. And so here we go. I got one on financemagnates.com. CFTC sues Iowa money manager for fraud. And this is by Aziz Abdel Kadir. Regulation Rex, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if this actually leads back to another website. Oh, fuck you, banner shit. Let's see if this goes to another story somewhere. I just want to make sure it's the actual article and not, you know, some just snippet in a reference to another article or some shit. Alright, we're good. Here we go. The U.S. Commodities Futures Trading Commission has filed an enforcement action in New York federal court against Iowa-based money manager accused of soliciting clients for his fraudulent scheme via Craigslist ads, the agency said on Monday. According to the complaint, Lon Olin Fredrickson solicited the money from several unsuspecting investors by guaranteeing participants a monthly return on their investments based on profits purportedly earned from commodity trading. The commission is seeking a court order to force Fredrickson to disgorge ill-gotten gains and pay a fine. Clients gave Fredrickson the power to trade in their accounts as he fraudulently induced them, claiming to be fit and proper. One client gave him $100,000 as he claimed 10% per day returns, provided they would split the profits 50-50 every week. The CFTC alleges that beginning in December 2014 and continuing through May 2017, the defendant conspired to defraud investors by enticing them to participate in his asset management services. To create the illusion of stability, he allegedly prepared and distributed false account statements to fund participants, telling investors that his strategy offered a safe investment with steady and guaranteed returns, according to the complaint. As a result, at least 12 participants gave Fredrickson a total of $400,000 to trade in their personal commodities futures account held at Futures Commission Merchants. He lost $161,000 of its clients' funds and raked in a total of $45,369 in fees. In connection with the promotion of his service, the unregulated money manager made a series of materially false claims through various means, including a website, social media, newsletters, and verbal communications. He also allegedly utilized promotional materials that showed trading returns based on hypothetical results without including the required disclosure language. The CFTC has asked the court to provide full restitution to defrauded investors, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains, and to pay the appropriate civil monetary penalties. In addition to fiscal claims, the agency seeks permanent registration and trading bans, and a permanent injunction from future violations of federal commodities laws. In other words, get a fucking license, bitch! Register with us! Yeah, whatever. But, this guy did make a few errors, I'm sure. I'm just judging from this. The fraudulent claim thing, ill-gotten gains, yeah, whatever. The question I have is this. How did he operate for 3 years without pissing off enough people that he just didn't have any business? I mean, why did they continue to give him money? Was he actually paying out? If that's the case, then his customers should probably just be made whole, and he need to do some sort of compliance tap dance and do a little spell and make him legal. But, like I said before, we're going to see more of this stuff as the noose kind of tightens. But, again, I think that all this will really do is push more of this activity into the dark. People will find proxies to do their trading in that are perfectly legal by every plausible means. They're not withdrawing funds and whatever and not accounting for them or whatever. But that is going to go on, that you're going to have trusted advisors that are negotiating the waters for you. It's going to happen. It's probably happening right now. I almost guarantee it. But yeah, there's not going to be any stopping it. And especially not now that it's all global. I mean, that kind of ended back in 2009? When Bitcoin started, again, it was a disparate grouping of nodes, or miners rather, all over the place. But very, very small, very finite. I remember, because I was one of them. I mean, the network was so small, they actually noticed when I shut down. They're like, dude, where'd you go? What happened? They thought I might have gotten busted or something. I'm like, no, I just, the thing is really loud and noisy, and I don't know that I'm actually doing anything here. But, I was only using a single core fucking 1.8 gigahertz processor, so that gives you an idea of how small the fucking network was that they even noticed me. And again, that just started in garages and closets and dorm rooms, on laptops, old defunct hardware. And look at it now. It's worth half a $1 trillion is tied up in cryptocurrencies now. So, you can only imagine what it'll look like in another 20 years. Personally, I think all of these agencies, they're going to demonstrate themselves to be the complete inefficiencies that they actually represent in the whole schema of things, and we're just going to amputate. It's going to be like amputating banks and amputating the cross-border remittance agencies. They're all going to go away. There's just no need for them anymore. I mean, if I can achieve the same thing with Dogecoin at a fucking minuscule fraction of what it's going to cost me to do the same service through Wells Fargo or somebody else, some other wiring agency, why am I going to continue to use their services? And again, I think this tails back around to that just-in-time ideology with regard to manufacturing, that the seeking of making processes more efficient, it's not going to stop just in the manufacturing line. It hasn't just stopped in the manufacturing line. People have tried to apply it to several things that it's really not supposed to be applied to and really shouldn't have been applied to, but that's beside the point. Where it's going to eventually be applied to is law. We're going to be weighing things like efficiencies. Like, okay, if I bust this guy for this and I put him behind bars, the amount of creative capability, the amount of physical capability that I am taking out of this system is going to cost me more than this person in prison can actually make for me. So, I've got to cut away the laws that make what he was doing illegal so that he can keep doing it, and introducing that economic activity into the system. Because if he is behind bars, he's only going to do half as much as would be, good for me, because I would get more taxes and whatnot. When you take somebody out of the equation, you're taking out not just what they themselves can do. When they spend money on things that they actually need, okay, like electricity and water and food and gas, they're contributing to the overall economy of their local space, assuming they're actually paying for any of these things. But even if they aren't, somebody else is, and the load is being paid for. Now, as long as that's not the state government, you're profitable. But where I'm going with this is that by trying to clamp down on activity in cryptocurrencies, I mean, we heard it with this guy that they're nailing on money transmission accusations or whatever charges. He moved $1.5 million. That's one guy. And he probably could have moved more if he was doing it openly. Imagine how much commerce he facilitated with that. And let's just assume for a moment, rather than, doing the doom and gloom thing, let's just assume for a moment that 95% of the money that he moved from point A to point B for people was dedicated to things that people needed. Like food, shelter, water, gas for their car, insurance, a cell phone bill, rent, tuition. These are all expenses that enhance the overall good, If they could stay in school for another semester, they might get that fucking diploma. They might get that graduate degree, the graduate fucking whatever that is. I never got that far in college. The master's degree. Maybe that's all they've really needed was that one more semester. And they were able to pay for it via fees they were accumulating from transactions they were doing for other people. So, what are we really robbing ourselves of is the question to be asking. And I think in the future, in the not so distant future, we're going to be finding out that these things are actually costing us way more than face value. And we need that brain power out in the system, out in the market. And we need that body power out there. Because it's not doing us any good in prison. And the people that it is doing good, Maybe they should be doing something else, like macrame or some shit like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down some music. And I've got this song by Pantera going, and I really, really like it. So I think this is the one we're going to go with. Primal Concrete Sledge, here on Coin Metal. And that was Now I Lay Thee Down by Machine Head. And so, we've talked about the CFTC allowing their agents to trade cryptocurrencies. We've also talked extensively, on this show at least, about how regulation really gets called back down. And we've seen it a million times already, you know, with China saying, oh, we're going to ban this, oh, we're going to ban that. Yeah, whatever. What's really happened? I mean, really, when we take a look at what's really happened, is that there are still miners in China. Most of the mining is still done in China. Chinese traders are still trading ICOs over the counter. Chinese traders are trading cryptocurrencies over the counter. And nothing has changed. And I think this is the point that's lost on some people, is that these markets are still operational. The mining networks are operational. And that tells us something very, very interesting. It tells us that no matter how hard the hand squeezes on one side, it will pop up somewhere else. And anyway, so, you know, we've been talking about how the regulation really gets implemented. And, you know, there's arrests here and there's busts there and whatnot, but for the most part, the shit just continues on. And personally, I think that's what we're going to see into the future. I think eventually we are going to displace enough monetary value into the cryptocurrency markets to where we will be the majority. And I'm not talking about just Bitcoin having, you know, being the global monetary standard or whatnot. I'm talking about thousands of cryptocurrencies being transacted amongst people that are willing to honor them for goods and services. I see this in the future. This is where it is all going. But these ideas of walled gardens and regulated markets and KYC, you know what? All of that shit's going to be irrelevant. The biggest factors that will be important is, do you reliably fulfill on your obligations? Do you pay people that you say you're going to pay? Do you deliver what you say you're going to deliver? And this is going to be the defining factor of whether or not people do business with you, or at least the duration that they do business with you. Because no seal by the CFTC or the SEC is going to change whether or not you actually fulfill on your contracts. And see, I think this is one of the other dangers of that off-chain stuff, is that once it does get into a payment channel, you don't have any control as to when it settles. See, when you do a Bitcoin transaction now, with some margin of error, you have some idea of when the transaction is actually going to settle. But you give that up with Lightning networks, and I think that's kind of a factor that some people aren't really thinking about. Anyway, continuing on, I got this article here, and this one is going to be really entertaining, I think. It might be clickbaity, but we're going to go for it anyway. Korean government officials de facto banned from holding and trading crypto. And this is on March 6th. So again, it's those time travelers, 2018. And it's on the Bitcoin News. So we will have to review whether or not it's actually the full article and it's the real. Yep, it's looking like the full deal. Full meal deal. All right, here we go. Public officials de facto banned from crypto. South Korea has reportedly, quote, issued a ban on virtual currency holdings and transactions to all government officials. Mail Business newspaper reported. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. According to the document entitled Virtual Currency Holdings and Transactions Related Information for Civil Servants, the publication elaborated. And you know what? We're going to copy and paste that bad boy into another tab because we need it. We need to do it. We're an international show, so, you know, we got to think about people that aren't necessarily in the United States. Let's see if we can actually find the document. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Let's see here. Try it a different way. Take the quotes off of it. That might help. Quotes. That used to be a really useful tool, and then Google fucked it up. De facto ban from holding. 37,000 results. Let's see here. See if I can actually find the document itself, which would be really cool. SEC chairman on virtual currencies, blah blah blah. No. Maybe. No. That's OSU. No. Damn it, Jim. Oh well, we'll just continue on with what we've got here. According to the document entitled Virtual Currency Holdings and Transaction Related Information for Civil Servants, the publication elaborated. The personnel department requested that they, civil servants, refrain from holding and trading virtual currency even if there is no job relevance. This is the first time the government has formulated a virtual currency ban for all public officials. That's going to be really fun. Disciplinary actions encouraged, but not defined. The publication quoted the Personnel Affairs Department explaining that if employees trade digital currencies for their personal benefit, they, quote, are in violation of the prohibition of forbearance obligations under the Civil Servants Law, especially if trading is done during work hours. Even if there is no job relevance, the officials could be subject to discipline, the news outlet conveyed and quoted a high-ranking official explaining. The disciplinary issue is not a quantitative cut, but a problem of interpretation of the law. Each ministry should judge the possibility of discipline. Additional efforts. The Korean Financial Services Commission, FSC, the Fair Trade Commission, and other related departments have already warned their employees to, quote, refrain from investing in virtual currency. The news outlet added, furthermore, the head of the Office of Policy Coordinator Hong Nam told all public officials to do the same in January. Last month, the Korean Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission issued the, quote, Code of Conduct Guide to Cryptocurrency to all government departments and public agencies. Gosh, I wonder if that had anything to do with the dip. This document adds cryptocurrency to Article 12 of the Civil Servant Code of Conduct, prohibiting public officials from using, quote, the information learned during their duties to assist in trading or investing in cryptocurrencies. In addition, the FSS, which is an independent agency, said it will review its own code of conduct. Yeah, check themselves for traders. Earlier this year, a bill was introduced to require public officials to declare their cryptocurrency investments. It followed accusations that some government employees were involved in insider trading using undisclosed knowledge of future regulations as well as market manipulation. Do you think that Korean government officials should be banned from holding and trading crypto? Let us know in the comments section below. Let's see if anybody did. And nobody has. Okay, never mind. So there you have it. the Koreans cannot figure out whether or not they want to ban their public officials from trading in cryptocurrencies. I think they're facing that same nuclear option everywhere. It's not just in South Korea, but this is South Korea butting their heads up against shit on paper. And they're like, I don't know if I'm going to enforce this shit, because honestly, I don't see how I can, and honestly, I don't think it'll be a real positive effect. Meaning, I'll be impacted by it. You know? And I think that's we're going to continue to come back to this. This isn't an effect that's going away. Like I said, all this shit's happening on public blockchains. So, ultimately, it is accountable to some extent, depending on the information held in the transactions themselves. And, again, this is just going to make more cases, more use cases for cryptocurrencies like Verge and Monero and all those others that do have privacy features embedded in them. I mean, I really don't see it another way. That, you know, the South Korean officials are going to try and bust somebody. And I will say this. As soon as they bust somebody, they're going to establish a precedent for conduct under which they bust people for. And once they do that, they are going to look in the mirror one morning and say, oh shit, I did that back in 2015. We better erase that, otherwise they'll bust me eventually, because it is going to be accountable. This is why I don't do funky shit. I don't sit here and promote scam coins and shit like that, because I know at some point or another somebody is going to call a project into question, and that's going to be that. They're going to be going, hey dude, you promoted some shit, we're going to hold you accountable. No. Because I don't promote shit. I mean, I try to notify people of shit before they get fucked by it. But that's just my own mission, you know? I mean, ultimately, you will do the actions that you feel are necessary. You will accept the risks that you decide are tolerable. I mean, that's all investment. That's in every investment realm. In every single investment realm, it is risk tolerance. It is reward, risk aversion. I'm quite aversive to risk. I'm a very, very conservative trader. I'm probably the worst trader in crypto given the technology that's out there. But I don't scam people. I don't like pump and dump people and shit like that. I mean, to me, that's unethical behavior. There's already enough fuckery afoot out there. We really don't need to be contributing to it with the world's most accountable currencies ever fucking known. There's never been a more accountable currency than Bitcoin and other proof of work based cryptocurrencies. Never, ever, ever. It's that in itself is such an achievement that I think it's lost on a lot of people. You know, it's like we did it yesterday. Okay, so we're doing it today. Big whoop-de-doo, right? But you know what? We're doing something that's never been done before. I think that's really lost on people. It's like, you know, they keep looking for a mommy or daddy. You know, I'm sorry, none of those exist here. You know, you got people pretending they can be mommy and daddy, but they really can't watch out for you the way mommy and daddy do. And they can pretend like they can, but the safest hands are always your own. Don't let anybody try and convince you otherwise. Anyway, we will be back again on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want you to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly appreciate the support. And like I said, we will be back again on Wednesday. And so for our last dance, we got to go with Korn. I've been avoiding it all night, but here it is. It's on. Last Dance. Thank you again, and you have a good night.